You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/kidsandfamily. Just go to Indeed.com/kidsandfamily right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
Are you ready to learn the 3 secrets to launching a successful podcast? Hi, I'm Bill, a recent client of the Podcast Mogul. If you've been thinking about starting a podcast but aren't sure where to begin, he's got you covered. He is hosting a free webinar where he will share the 3 secrets that can help you launch, grow, and monetize your podcast without any fancy equipment or technical headaches. Click the link in the show notes to save your spot now and let him help get your podcast off the ground.
Welcome to Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. Join the podcast mogul Phil Better as he interviews successful entrepreneurs that make their living in the digital world. Now, let's join your host, Phil Better, and his special guest today on Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast.
Welcome back to another exciting and enlightening episode of Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm, of course, your host with the most, Phil Better, and today we have a guest who is taking the forefront of transforming businesses with AI, delivering powerful strategies that are going to make them more money and, of course, save time. Our guest is the CEO of Bazooka, a company that's been named to the Inc. 5000 list 3 times, people, for its remarkable impact on business. Since July 2022, he has guided over 600 business leaders in scaling their operations through strategic AI implementation. His methodology, the AI strategy canvas, and scalable prompt engineering have proven to be so effective that institutions like LSU have made them a requirement part of their AI curriculum. A serial entrepreneur with a successful track record of building and selling businesses, our guest knows firsthand the importance of leveraging AI to drive scalability in today's competitive business landscape. His passion is in helping companies harness AI's potential across their entire organization, improving efficiency while empowering and upskilling their workforce. In today's episode, he'll share his highlights on how you can implement AI strategies in your business to catapult its growth and achieve new levels of efficiency. So put your hands together, get your ears ready, your pads and papers locked and loaded, because we have Mr. John Munsell on the podcast today. John, thank you so much for being here.
Phil, you are the man. I mean, that intro was a hoot. I'm getting a kick out of that. And I love what you're doing. I only wish that when I started my company 25 years ago, that your podcast was around, because I could have saved myself a whole lot of heartburn.
Well, that's why I started. You know, the old saying, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The next time it's right now. I planted this tree specifically to help myself when I started it, to figure out what is an entrepreneur. And now I'm like, I know what an entrepreneur is. I need to help others understand how powerful being an entrepreneur is, because I think it's truly the future of the world we're moving into.
I hear you, man. I agree.
So, John, I'm going to start with the first question that I always start. Why? Why did you decide to jump into the world of entrepreneurship?
Man, hardwiring is all I can say, you know? So, I mean, I've always had that itch to be my own boss. I was always the guy who, I wouldn't say rebelled, but I didn't like being controlled. I didn't like being told what to do and when to do it. But, you know, you have to walk that path, right? You have to take time to sign the back of a check before you put yourself in a position to sign the front of the check, you know? And I think there were a couple of instances. One was my first job out of college. Now I'm ancient, you know, so I won't tell you what year, but somebody can guess because my first job out of college was the year IBM came out with a PC and they slapped it on my desk and said, "Figure out how to use this thing," and then yeah.
Wow.
Oh, okay. We had these floppy disks and all this other garbage going on, and it was interesting. And then um, the world's first spreadsheet was called VisiCalc, and you had to use backslashes to invoke a menu, and the menu was just letters, and you had to know what the letter stood for in order to do something. It was really interesting. And then I ended up getting laid off 8 months later. They dissolved our entire department. So that was like first inkling to, you know what, maybe you ought to figure out how to be in control, right? So that was a little burn. I went to work for a bank. In that bank, then this product called Lotus 123 came out. A buddy of mine and I built a software application that would help us analyze commercial financial statements so we could make lending decisions, right? So they used it in our credit department. And then Lotus came out with another product called Symphony. And in Symphony, an embedded database, a hybrid database is nothing more than a glorified spreadsheet, but it also embedded communications via modem. So you had to dial into another office and all this stuff. So anyway, I got really good at that. And then my buddy Dean, whose name you will hear throughout this, I said, "Dean, man, nobody's teaching Symphony. Why don't we go?" And at the time we were living in Baton Rouge. So why don't we go over there to LSU and pitch them on teaching Symphony through their continuing ed department? And so we waltzed over there, pitched them on it. And we got, I think we each got like $300 a piece to teach this course. And I think they got $300 a student, and there were like 30 students. So we came out a little bit behind them.
There's a little bit of a little impropriety there,
A little imbalance there, but it was, it was worth every penny because it was a lot of fun. And then, fast forward, he moved to Orlando. I ended up moving to Tampa. Both of us worked for different banks. And I called him up one day. I said, "Dean, do you still have that application that we wrote at this other bank?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "Man, give me a copy of that thing." So I got a copy of it. Then I enhanced it for our bank, put all kind of macros and fun stuff in it. And then the CEO of our bank went nuts over it. So then I called Dean up and I said, "Dean, man, I think we can make a killing if we sold this to other banks throughout the country." He's like, "Great idea." So every weekend he'd drive over, hang out with me and my wife in our little apartment. We'd go to my office and we'd finesse this little thing. And then I bought this marketing material. Now it was $500 back then, which to me was, like a whole week's pay. It was a lot of money, right? And it was a guy named Jay Abraham. I don't know if you've ever heard of Jay Abraham. So it was a product he called Your Marketing Genius at Work. And it was I don't know, about that thick. And it was just literally a bunch of little, I don't know, 5 to 20 page pamphlets that were 8.5 by 11. And I binge read those things over a weekend so I could learn direct response marketing because there was no email, there was no web, there was no nothing, right? So what we had to do is create a letter, throw it in the mail, and then hope it came back a few weeks later with a check in it, And so you talk about experimenting, but one of the things that I learned from Jay's material was to test your headline, test your ad copy. Well, there we go. And test your, why these hand gestures happen, I don't know. But anyway, it tests your pricing. All right. So what was fascinating about that is there was this company called Parsons Technology, and they were selling these little bitty software applications for like $49, $69, $89, They were little bitty things that you could run on your PC. So I was like, "Dean, man, I think we could light the world on fire selling this thing for $49. And he's like, man, I think we could too. And the competition was selling for like $2,500, you know? All right. So we built this thing, we created a jacket for it and all this other junk, sent it out. And we tested $49, $89, $149, $249, $349, and $549. So we tested all these things in different parts of the country to see what would happen. And Phil, $249 outsold the rest 5-1.
What?
Right. So we not only 5x'd our price, but we 5x'd the number we sold. So essentially it was a 25x on revenue. It was the most fascinating experiment. And so that's when the bug really bit me. I was like, this is really fun. You know, marketing is fun. And having checks come in the mail is fun, right?
I'm guaranteeing number 2 is the best for most people. Having checks just randomly appear in the another check. Okay, we'll deposit this. That's no one's going to say no to that.
No, it's crazy. Like, because we couldn't accept credit cards or anything, so we just like send us a check, and people freaking sent us a check, and we were sending it to banks, you know. So I'm sure a bank's going, who's going to try to scam a bank, you know?
I guess they never heard of, Catch Me If You Can.
Right. Oh, well, there's that guy. Yeah. But anyway, that was where I really got the itch. And then fast forward, I left the bank, went to work for a company called Northwestern Mutual, because I was when I went to Clearwater to take over this branch bank, they were in trouble and they asked me to turn it around. So I was doing all sorts of cold calling and, you know, doing everything to, essentially I was in sales. And then one day I got robbed at gunpoint at the bank. And at that point I was like, you know, if I'm going to be in sales, I think there's probably a better way.
Probably safer too than worrying about someone trying to take the money.
I'm thinking I can increase my income and not have a gun pointed at me unless I piss the guy off on the other side from me. So I went to work for Northwestern Mutual, and because they were rated as the #1 sales company in America. And I thought, hey, what a better place to learn sales, you know? So I spent 6 years with them. And then this little thing called the web came out, and I started looking at that, and I was like, wow, this is where the future is. And so I built an intranet for our regional office so they wouldn't have to mail these reports out to everybody, and people could just check on the intranet. And they're like, this is cool as hell. I've never seen anything like this. And then I had a buddy call me. He goes, hey man, I'm thinking about building a website. And I was like, really? I'll build it for you. He goes, really? How much would you charge? And I'm like, I don't know, $100 a page. He goes, okay. So I built him a website. And then, you know, back then all you had was Yahoo. It was really easy to get a high ranking on Yahoo because it was a directory. So next thing I know, I started getting calls from people that say, hey, can you build me a website? And I was like, this is a hell of a lot more fun than selling life insurance. So,
yeah, it's a less dark, if you will,
right?
As well.
Yeah. So it scratched all of my itches, right? I love technology. I loved marketing. I loved getting checks in the mail. I could do no, there we go. Sometimes my internet locks up.
No worries, you're good now. So checks in the mail was the last thing I was able to hear.
Yeah. So anyway, bottom line is that I left Northwestern and started a company, and we went from 0 to $1.5 million revenue in about 16 months. And of course, that was right at the .com craze. And then we hit the .com bomb. And, you know, at the time we were selling websites for, you know, 6 figures. Each one was, you know, 1, 2, 300,000. And we had one company actually pay us $1.25 million to build what we thought was one of the first content management systems. And we built it in a component-based architecture so that every time they would acquire a new company, we could rapidly deploy a new website for them. And if they needed a press release section, we could just click a button and launch one. If they needed a biography section. We could click a button and launch one. So we had all these components. So we built that out. And that was our developers tool. That was our secret sauce to, making more money. Right. And it was a whole lot of fun. And then when the dot-com bomb hit, all of a sudden, nobody was paying six figures for a website anymore. And we're like, uh-oh, now what? And so I looked at what we built and I was like, guys, I think what we do is we just change our business model. And instead of building six-figure applications, why don't we build 4 and 5-figure applications and license the software to them and build a recurring revenue stream? And so we flipped our technology to where our customer could use that tool. So they could click and launch stuff, so that became the problem that we solved, the scalable website. And this is, in 2001. And so then we showed it to a few people. I showed it to this guy who had earlier sold his company for $5 billion. And he made his take, I think it was like 300 million. It wasn't a bad deal. And he fell in love with it. He's like, this is amazing. I've never seen anything like this. So we were scheduled to close on a term sheet for $1.5 million in funding at 2 p.m. on September the 11th of 2001.
Very big date in history.
Yeah. Bad timing, unfortunately. And so when all of that went down, I told my team, I was like, y'all, I think we're in one of those towers. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, I think we just lost our funding. And sure enough, he called me up, canceled the meeting. And then when the markets crashed, he backed out entirely. And so we had no income, just a bunch of expenses. And so at that point, I was like, now what? And all of our investors said, hey, it was a good ride. Y'all go get real jobs. And, too bad we didn't make it. And I'm like, well, that's easy for you. Oh, there was an interesting episode. Yeah. Poor Charlie. That one, wasn't it?
You're not the best guy, no. Celebrating. So for the audience that is listening, John just put up 2 thumbs up and a firework explosion just happened as he was mentioning that he had to go find a real job. So it's
right. Very poor timing. But anyway, so I was like, that's easy for you to say, but I'm the guarantor on $250,000 worth of debt. So I can't pay that out over 30 years like I could if it was on my house. So anyway, bottom line is that I worked out a deal with them where we created a new company called Bazooka, and we moved the technology into Bazooka. I gave them shares. I took majority of the company. And then we changed our business model around, and we took off from there. And it was, but that was it. I kept looking at the web like, man, this is where the future is going to go. We need to be selling the picks and shovels to the guys that are trying to get into the gold rush. I don't want to be in the gold rush. I just want to sell the picks and shovels. And then, 3 years ago, I was looking at AI and I'm like, oh, here we go again, except for this is going to move even faster. So I sold off the agency side of the company to focus on AI. And once again, I'm like, okay, I'm going to sell the picks and shovels because we've been using it for a while. Here we are. So 1,000-mile-an-hour tour, Phil, to one little question.
I love it because it gives the audience who are just starting their journey, because that's who the audience is, that there is chances to pivot. If you hit something hard, like you went through the .com bubble, which a lot of businesses disappeared, but you're like, no, we can pivot this. We can change it so that we can still make money. And then when the next thing happened, you were like, okay, we can change again, we can pivot again. And you're always looking to the future. You're not looking at staying the status quo. You're looking to grow, and you're always looking at what's coming down the pipeline and giving them the reassurance, if you will, that change is good. Change won't kill you. Change is important for us as entrepreneurs to realize that everything that comes down the pipeline, could be bad, like the 9/11 situation that you faced, but you turned it into a positive, and then it grew into where you are today, where now you're focusing on AI. You sold a part of your business to focus on AI and help businesses leverage the power of AI? Because I think AI is going to change the landscape dramatically. What it's done today is nothing what we'll do in the future, because it gives everybody the opportunity to have access to the smartest people in the world, because it is the smartest person in the world because of the technology it's trained on. And it's fascinating. I want to know, John, because I'm a huge proponent of AI. I think it's like, if you didn't get from that little spiel I just did, that it is the future, right? Everybody, I'm waiting for everybody to have their own Jarvis, if you will, from Iron Man. Just on your watch, you can talk and it will do everything for you. How do you think AI is going to change business? Because it's already changed it a bit. It already created that earthquake effect in showing that, like what you're doing, you're teaching business owners how to leverage AI without losing their staff. A lot of businesses are like, oh, AI can replace our staff. You're like, no, AI is an accentuating of the tool of your it's an extra tool for your staff to use. How did you decide like that was something you wanted to focus on?
Well, I kind of, like I said, we've been playing around with it for a while. We, of course, building software for 21 years, we've had to do all kinds of things that are predecessors to AI. But when Copy AI came out and Jarvis, which was back then, what's it now? Is it Jasper now? It was Jarvis then, or is it the other way around? I always forget. But I think it's Jasper now, and it was Jarvis originally. At any rate, when we were playing around with it, I was like, okay, this is getting kind of interesting, but it seemed to talk in circles. You had to constantly, bounce it back to where you wanted it to go. I mean, the cool thing was that it would give you a great head start on copy. And so I was trying to teach people how to use that so we could, move a lot faster. And then when ChatGPT came out, I was like, oh, wow, they've kind of taken a lot of the guardrails off of this thing. So now I can do some stuff. So I started to play with it more. And then GPT-4 came out and it could write even better stuff. And so that's when I thought, okay, this is moving so fast. This is where the new frontier is. So we started to use it internally to really accelerate our content production, to just accelerate our thought production. I mean, just about everything. And I started to develop some frameworks to do what we call scalable prompt engineering, which is most people just teach prompt engineering, which is basically just writing a bunch of paragraphs to tell the AI what to do, right? And I realized you can't really scale that throughout the organization. You have to have a structure to a prompt where people can hot swap information and they can share the prompt and they can, spread faster. So once I developed that, that's when I realized, okay, now we're cooking with gas and we can grow faster than anybody and have a really unfair advantage. And so that's when I thought, okay, what I really want to do as a small business owner, I know there's nothing more painful than to let somebody go, and I kept reading about everybody saying, oh, you're not going to be replaced by AI. You'll be replaced by somebody that knows AI. And I'm thinking, as a business owner, the last thing I want to do is replace a 10, 15-year employee who knows my culture, knows the ins and outs of my customer base, knows how to serve our customers well. And you're telling me I'm going to replace them with somebody that just knows how to ask questions better out of a GPT? I don't think so. I think I'm better off teaching that person how to do their job better, faster, and cheaper, and keep my culture the way it is. And not have everybody afraid they're going to get canned tomorrow because there's this new toy in town,
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of what my passion became. And I also felt like it's going to change how we interface with just about everything. So it's going to change the web massively. And so that's when I thought the timing is right for me to sell off our client base and all that stuff and just focus on this so I could help businesses retain employees and I could help employees retain their job. And if they lost their job, I could make them more valuable to the next person. I could make them entrepreneurs, basically.
I love that. Because it is important. You learning how to use the tools that are coming, just like how you use Lotus at your first start. You learned how to use Lotus to the nth degree, and people thought, oh, Lotus is going to replace jobs, but no, replaced by people who know how to use the tool. And you're now taking it to the next level with this massively powerful tool. Um, how did you invest in yourself to always be able to realize that you need to pivot, or you need to be able to evolve as an individual inside the work world?
Great question. I've always invested in myself. I'm always curious. I pay for more freaking training, Phil, than you can shake a stick at. I promise you, over the last 7 years, I spent at least 300,000 in training. At least. I've joined mastermind groups that are $1,500 a year, and I've joined mastermind groups that are $30,000 a year. I'm just constantly trying to learn. And sometimes, you spend money learning something that you already know just to see if there's one thing that you haven't learned yet, right? And I'm always doing that. I don't care what it is, because I have just had a thirst for knowledge. It's just you're going to do better at anything you do if you practice, and you're not afraid to make a mistake, and you're not afraid to ask somebody else if they know something you don't know. Don't be so egotistical that you think you know it all. I guarantee you there could be I got a college degree. I could learn something from a sixth grader. I guarantee you. So I just want to know what somebody else knows. And if I can add value to it, great. On the other end, there's probably something in there that if I listen hard enough, I'm going to get something out of it. So that's really my whole deal. I'm pay money to invest in myself. I'm paying for training. I'm reading books. I'm super ADD, as you could probably tell from this whole interview, but I can't read a book. I have to listen to them. So I got an Audible subscription. I'm listening to books everywhere. If I'm driving, buddy, I guarantee you, I am not just looking at the road. I'm listening to a book.
I'm the same way.
Yeah.
I love Audible is probably one of the best investments I've made in myself. Getting that 1 credit a month, or even like the buying extra credits when they have those sales so that you can get more books, so you can get that that knowledge. It's phenomenal. I also love reading. Just sitting down with a book is something that used to calm me when I was a child. So I do both. When I'm driving, I have the Kindle account and the Audible, so that books are transferring back and forth, so I'm good. And I think reading is probably the fundamentals, or listening to books is a fundamental way of starting to invest in yourself when you can't afford those $30,000 to $15,000 to $30,000 a year memberships. Reading is the next best thing, I think.
Hey, look, I want to get a mentor. There are so many people that would be happy to mentor you for free. Some you have to pay, but look, our chairman of the board was a year ahead of me at LSU. He's a frat brother of mine. He took a company public. He's done some amazing things. I just asked him, I said, hey man, can you be my mentor? And gradually he became an investor and the chairman of our board. He gave me a book to read as we were scaling the company, and I'll never forget. It was called Corporate Life Cycles by Ichaka Dizes. I don't know. It's a weird spelling, but anyway, the subtitle is How Corporations Grow and Die and What You Can Do About It, something like that. But it was the most complicated read I'd ever done. There is no Audible book. You can't listen to this thing. Because it has all these weird little things, PAEI, and you can have an uppercase or a lowercase p, uppercase or lowercase a, right? And you have to know what those stand for. And so as it's just, you're reading this, this corporation has a P, uppercase P, lowercase a, lowercase e, uppercase I, and I'm like, what in the heck is this? But I'm telling you, if you can just slow down enough and read it, it's the formula for scaling a business. It's absolutely fascinating, because it teaches you what types of people you need to have in your organization at what stage. So if you're in the early stage, like we are, we're in what's called the go-go stage. All right. And then you get all the way up to the peak, and then you start to die off. At that go-go stage, there's a certain mix of people that you have to have in there. And up here, you have to have a different mix. If you start to tip the curve in the wrong direction, it's because you've got the wrong mix. And we did all sorts of tests on this. It's absolutely fascinating. There's what the PAEI is. There's a producer, an administrator, an integrator, and an entrepreneur, right? The entrepreneur is the E, P-A, and the administrator is the A. Yeah. Okay. So a producer is the person that just does the work, right? You just slide food under the table every now and then, and they just want to they don't want to talk to anybody. They just want to get their stuff done. The administrator is like your bookkeeper, right? They just give me some rules. I'm going to follow the rules. I'm going to make sure you follow the rules. I'm going to organize stuff, and we're going to put processes in place and all that stuff. The entrepreneur is the idea guy, right? That's the visionary, the people that just are creative as all get out. And the I's are the integrators. Those are the guys that like to get everybody together, build cultural, build teams, all that fun stuff. And, y'all have a different mix, but it's so fascinating when you actually put that together into a group in the right mix, how much faster you grow and how much you can put on the air brakes. Like if you have too many administrators, you're putting on the air brakes. And you get in the go-go stage, you almost want one administrator, and everybody else needs to be either a producer or an entrepreneur. It's fascinating how that works. But anyway, go get the book.
Oh, it's on my list already.
Read it. I'm telling you, it's fascinating. For every entrepreneur listening, if you're trying to scale your business and you're at, 5 employees trying to roll it up, go get that book and it'll keep you from making a bad hire. I guarantee you. Just focus.
I love that. That book is probably next on my reading list. John, we're flying through the time, and I'm very cognitive of your time value. So I'm going to jump to the future, 10 years from now. Since you've been in the game for so long, you're an OG entrepreneur, and I love having OG entrepreneurs on because you've seen so much. And when I ask this question, you guys always blow my mind. So where do you see yourself and business in 10 years?
If you asked me this question 4 years ago, I'd have a totally different answer than what I got now. I'm really wondering what everything will look like 10 years now, because AI is moving so fast. And I keep struggling with what's that look like as your workforce becomes, let's take it this way. You got a company, you start injecting AI into certain aspects of it, and you're compressing time. You're doing stuff a whole lot faster. I worked with one of our clients the other day, and he was like, you just did in 30 minutes what I have been working on for 2 weeks, and you did it better. And I was like, that's what we teach, scalable prompting. If you know how to do it right. So what you're going to become is, you're not going to become the creator of the content. You're going to become the architect of the machine that creates the content. And and this is the funniest thing, Phil. I stole that line from one of my students who said it yesterday at her capstone project. Right? She's a legal professor at LSU. She's working with somebody to write a book on prompt engineering. And she said that our training was, as she put it, revelatory. She said it changed everything. She was blown away by it because she had never thought of prompt engineering in the way that we teach it. And for her to say, she actually said that. She goes, this is where people are going to go. And I'm like, you're right. You're not writing content, but you have to learn how to engineer the machine to write the content. So the way you do things is going to be differently. So you're going to move faster. You're going to compress time. And then the question is, do you as an employer have more people to sell to fill that time void? Or do you have this same economy you're selling into, and now you just have higher profits and you let people take more time off? But if at scale, if everybody does that, and people do get laid off, then you have a smaller economy to sell into. So it's this weird thing, with the web. I was like, okay, I can see in 20 years malls becoming ghost towns because there are going to be some players online. It's just too easy. With AI, the stuff that it'll do is mind-boggling already. So I don't know. All I know is that you have to know how to master that machine, just like you would know how to master Excel or Word or PowerPoint or Photoshop or whatever it is. You're going to need to learn how to make the machine do what you want it to do. It's like what I always tell people, look, if you don't know what excellence looks like, you will always get average or below average out of AI, because AI knows everything, but it doesn't know what excellence is. And until you can teach it that, then it's like any other employee. If you don't teach the employee what to do at the level that you're expecting, it will do what it knows from what it's learned at other jobs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So 10 years from now, there's going to be something new going on with AI. I think I'll still be dabbling in it some way because my brain won't shut off. I can't retire, so I'm just going to be too much fun messing with it. But where the economy goes with it, man, I don't know.
That's for the economists. We'll leave that questions
Thanks.
for them, and we'll
Let me off the hook. Thank God.
Yeah, we'll focus on where we think the business world is going to go. And I love that AI is going to be changing things so dramatically. It's already changed so much, but I love that you need to learn how to, what you said, you need to learn how to get the machine to create the content that you want for your business. Be the owner of the content creation machine. Because I think that's where we're going. Every business is going to have their little media company, I think, inside of it. And regardless of the size of the business, they're going to need a media company, because that's where we're going into right now for marketing and all that. I do want to go back. I don't want to take any more of your time. So we're going to go back to when you were 10 years old, John, a bright-eyed, bushy-eyed little youngster who's looking at the world. What advice would you love to have been given at 10 years old that you have now that you want to share with us?
Well, my 10 years was way beyond where yours was.
Only a few years, John, just a few years difference.
Yeah. Dude, see, because that would have put me like in the fourth grade, and I know exactly what I was thinking in the fourth grade. But I honestly, there's a whole period of my time in that zone that you're talking about, third to sixth grade, where if I could have told myself how important it was to pay attention in school and excel, I'd have been better. But I think I kept thinking, I'm like, for instance, I kept thinking, I'm just going to hire somebody to do this crap. I'm not going to do this, and the stuff that didn't interest me. And then there was stuff that interested me that would be great. But if I could figure out a way to tell myself, look, just pay attention and be excellent at everything. You don't have to be perfect, but be excellent at everything. And your choices will be far greater when the time comes to make a choice, right? And then whether that choice is to go to college, or whether that choice is what you do after college, or whether that choice is to start a company in high school, you have more choices if you just pay attention and focus on delivering excellence for the people you serve and delivering excellence to yourself. I think that's probably the best counsel I would give myself at 10.
It's the best counsel I would receive today at my age today, because trying to be perfect is the worst thing I think anyone can do. We're not machines. We can't be perfect, but being excellent is a much simpler task to achieve. And of course, it harks back to one of my favorite lines from any movie, Bill and Ted, be excellent to each other.
From the book of Bill and Ted. I love
from the book of Bill and Ted, the legends that they are. Of course, Keanu Reeves is a legend. Alex Winter's a legend as well. Be excellent to each other. John, I'm going to jump off stage here. I want you to let my audience know where they can connect with you if they're looking to upgrade their skills so that they're not replaced by AI or someone who's better at AI. So the floor is yours, sir.
Oh, well, thanks. I appreciate it. Look, what I would say, and because I am an entrepreneur at heart, I would say, look, go to bazooka.com/ingrain. That's where our book is. You can get on the waiting list for that. If you do that and you tell us in the comments that you heard about us here on the Digital Entrepreneur podcast, I'll send you a copy of that book for free. It's going to be a hard copy book. So I'll send you a copy of that for free. Just make sure you say it's from the Digital Entrepreneur podcast. And I think you'll learn so much from that book. It'll teach you about scalable prompt engineering. It'll teach you about the AI strategy canvases, which is our tool for helping people understand all that. And you'll be able to leverage that to really move forward in your entrepreneurial venture, whether it's your own company or whether it's you just finding an off ramp from your current company. Do that, and we'll send you that book for free. But thanks for having me on the podcast. This has been a blast still.
John, it was an absolute pleasure to have you on the podcast. I can't thank you enough for the wisdom and the stories that you shared. I know I've taken a lot away from it. I'm pretty sure my audience will take even more away from it. Thank you so much for being here today.
Hey, my pleasure. Thanks for having me on, Phil. It's been great.
To my audience, make sure you check out the show notes down below to get access to that free copy of the book, because as I said before, books are the best way to invest in yourself, and why not take it from a legend like John himself? If he's telling you can get a free book, why not? So check out the show notes down below. I thank you so much for listening. Thank you, John, again for being here. And as always, remember to invest in yourself.
Thanks for tuning in. Now it's time to take the next step. When you're ready to dive deeper into how to launch, grow, and monetize your podcast, Phil's got something special for you. Join him for a free webinar where he'll reveal the 3 secrets that have helped countless entrepreneurs succeed in podcasting. Click the link in the show notes to save your spot, and let's turn your podcasting dreams into reality.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/kidsandfamily. Just go to Indeed.com/kidsandfamily right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.